I'm scared you leave me alone. But if you stay, I've got to make it okay. This is what's all about. So tonight, you make us right to. Shout out to Uncompetitive in the building, bright and early. Good to see you. Shout out to Big Bro Doug in the building, bright and early. Good to see you, Big Bro. Another week full of opportunities. Another week full of opportunities. Woke up today to a beautiful sunrise. I should show y'all. Let me show y'all, man, the sunrise that I was fortunate enough to experience today. Let's see, which pick do I want to go with? Let's see, which pick zoomed out. Y'all take a look at this. That's beautiful, right? Hold on. That's the sunrise that I woke up to today, man. Jersey looking good. Oh, I need to clean off my phone. Looking crazy. But how was everybody's weekend? I told y'all Friday, I said I don't know when we're going to do it, but we did a pop-up random show. We actually ended up doing it yesterday. We reviewed Kamala's interview on MSNBC. Hold on, let me blow my nose. 1 second. Oh, shout out to pulling each other, letting me know I'm muted, man. I went to blow my nose. I don't like when y'all hear me blow my nose, so I muted it to blow my nose. But shout out to my bro God Earth in the building. I was saying, what time is it in Hawaii? Like, no audio, bro. We can't hear you. All right, so we got a fun show for today. Earth, let us know what time it is. You're up early. That guy, appreciate that guy tapping in. Nah, I'm good. We back. We're off mute. I hope I'm off mute now. But we got a cool show for y'all today. What's funny is, so when I initially made the thumbnail for the show, you guys can hear me now. Give me the thumbs up if you can hear me now. I think you guys can hear me now. All right. Let me know if you can hear me now. Matter of fact, I know you can because Urs answered the question. So we're good. All right. So my apologies for the sound. But so originally when I put the thumbnail up yesterday, I was watching a whole bunch of videos over the weekend. You know how you start to get down that you go down that rabbit hole. So I was watching videos. I went back to like 2020 and what was going on, a bunch of their videos exposing all the lies of it. And now they're coming out saying a whole bunch of stuff that are in relation to that jab. And I was like, okay, we got to start talking about these conspiracy theories, because it's almost getting to the point where a lot of the conspiracy theories, in my opinion, are seeming a lot realer than the stories that the politicians or the leaders are telling us, the influencers. I don't know if y'all are seeing that, but I'm seeing that. I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, that kind of makes sense. Like, or, oh, I kind of everything from the moon landing to aliens. And now it's like they've already acknowledged aliens are here. So it's just like all these things that used to be considered conspiracy theories or that people will bring up, and a lot of the government officials and the powers that be will just kind of shoo away in like a Alex Jones type of style and say, no, it's just a conspiracy theory. A lot of that stuff is coming to light. And even if it's not 100% coming to light yet, it's almost like we have to look at it now with a different lens than we were looking at it before, because maybe just because we realize how much we're being lied to now. So I say all that to say the original longer video that I was going to play in the beginning was a warning about what happened in 2020 and got into great detail about that. And then there was another video that was a former FBI director, and he was going in on talking about September 11th. He was talking about a whole bunch of stuff that apparently the government was involved in, allegedly. And then I said, you know what? That's probably not good for YouTube. So we may get to that stuff at the end. I'm holding it off to the end to kind of see how it goes. But we know how YouTube acts with that. That may be a little bit better for like when we do our Rumble. But neither here nor there. All right, so let me start off with this. And this is something that I touched on yesterday before we get into any of the videos. But we're going to talk about, you know, the conspiracy theory, the quote unquote conspiracy theory that I don't think is a conspiracy theory on why there's wars. We're going to talk a little bit about Ukraine and Russia. We're going to talk about Mayor Adams getting indicted. Then we got a few other things here and there. We're even going to go to a little bit of 2025 stuff. And then talk about some stuff with mass deportation. We probably won't get into the Mark Robinson, the lieutenant governor of North Carolina. We probably won't get into that story yet. But like I said, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So this is something that was on my mind. And I realized it I've realized it a bunch of times, but I took note of it yesterday again when I was listening to Kamala's interview on MSNBC. And when she's asked that question, as far as, you know, how are you going to raise funds? You know, if you're not able to raise taxes from the wealthy, like you always say, you know, how are you going to be able to fund a lot of these programs that you're presenting to the American people? And, you know, her response was, well, we have to raise taxes. Everybody, all the wealthy people are going to have to pay their fair share. Now, when people say fair share, yeah, we understand that. But it's like, what's fair? What's the fair share? And she'll sit there and say, like, you know, people said that they, you know, I speak to wealthy people all the time and they have no problem paying their fair share. What's the fair share? Okay, cool. What I'm noticing is that they're pitting us against each other. Our government should be responsible enough, financially responsible enough, just like the companies that we work for should be responsible enough to manage finances. So therefore, we're not always in a bind where we need to collect money taking from the American people in taxes. So what I've noticed is happening is you always have the lower and middle class people that are almost at war with the people that are wealthy in that higher bracket. And it's almost like instead of us focusing on, hold on, why doesn't the government have enough money to cover this on their own? Or why are they consistently taking money from us because of the debt that they're in to climb them out of their hole, or either printing new money or taking it from us? And printing new money is just going to cause the inflation. And we're looking at, you know, you got the lower middle class looking at the wealthy, like, yeah, you need to pay your fair share. You need to pay more, all this. And we're going back and forth. And in my opinion, the disagreement or the spotlight should be on the government's mismanagement of funds and us figuring out a way to where the government can raise more money without getting into what we are about to get into of just having wars. But then when I was looking at the finances aspect, that's what kind of led me to looking into why it is that we seem so urgent and excited and anxious to get into wars. And I've always heard that wars, you know, make countries a lot of money. And I remember hearing Tim Scott. There was a video of Tim Scott. We may have played it on here. And this is kind of, I know I'm going off on a tangent. I'm just leading y'all to like where my mind was. Because I'm sitting here thinking like, damn, like we over here getting pissed off. We're more pissed off at the wealthy for not giving up the money that they make rather than being pissed off at the government for not being responsible with finances and not being able to manage on their own rather than having to just take from the American citizens. So when I was thinking about the money and I was thinking about the war, it reminded me of Tim Scott. It was like just an interview, not super relevant, but it is for this conversation. And he was saying how whenever we write checks to, let's say, like a Ukraine or other countries, I'm not sure if this is the case with Israel. They were speaking specifically with Ukraine. But whenever we write checks to other countries, we get that money back. And Tim Scott was saying, hey, we're not giving the money to Ukraine. It's actually a loan because it's coming right back to us. And it got me thinking. And from my understanding, what I'm understanding it as now is that we write checks. Like, let's say we're writing a check to Ukraine. When we say that we're sending that billion out, we're really not sending that billion out. This is my understanding. I could be completely wrong. But my understanding is that billion or whatever, let's say it's a billion, let's say it's 80 billion, whatever it is, $80 billion check to Ukraine. It's actually not going to Ukraine. It's coming back to us. And it's paying the people in our country that manufacture the guns and manufacture the weapons. And then we're sending the weapons to them. So we're pretty much just giving them funds to spend at our store. So it's like if we owned a store, let's say we own a sneaker store. I'm going to write out a check, but I'm going to get the money. I don't have to put up the money. I'm going to get it from the people that I'm collecting taxes from. I'm going to raise funds, other people's funds. And then I'm going to give it out to people but I'm only giving you sneaker bucks, DAX sneaker bucks. So therefore you have to spend it at my store. So therefore I want as much money as I can raise as possible. And this is why they want as much war as possible, because it's good business. So this is my understanding of it. I may be completely wrong. And the more I lean into this, the more I lean into why they do not want Trump as president. When Trump says that he's going to come out and stop war, a lot of people, and Uncle Brother just pointed it out when he says the money laundering. This is why people have always been accused of money laundering when they say we're sending all this money to Ukraine. When we're sending all this money to Ukraine, we're not sending it technically to Ukraine. We're sending it back to us and just kind of changing the check to say like, hey, Ukraine, we got this money for you, but if we're going to be partners, you got to buy all your weapons from us. So therefore, we're just going to give it to our weapons manufacturing company. You understand? So that's the best way that a lot of the Democrats and liberals, in my opinion, have found to raise funds right now. Because if you do not have, let's say, the business savvy of a guy like Trump, you're not willing to do the tariffs, you're not willing to drill on your own and do fracking, you're not willing to do all these things that are going to keep money in the country, what do you have to do? You have to figure out a way to get people to spend money on different businesses that you have, so therefore you can profit. So this thing was kind of just, I've heard this before, but it never made as much sense to me as it did over the weekend. So let me, hold on, uncompetitive wrote, listen to President Eisenhower's closing address when he left office and how he warned of the threat posed by the U.S. military-industrial complex, which had grown large during World War II. We have to listen to this. Matter of fact, if it's not long, I would listen to it right now, but maybe we'll listen to it on Wednesday. But this is what's happening. So let me share a couple of videos. Like I said, today we're going to bounce all over the place. We may go off on some tangents. That's cool. That's what we do. Let's just kind of see where it goes. So this was the first video that I wanted to look at. I feel like this guy broke it down pretty well. There's a couple others that we may get into, but I think he was pretty thorough in how he broke it down. You guys tell me what your thoughts are, and we shall go from there. Hold on. I gotta be a little bigger than that. There we go. Let's check it out. Let's dive into it. I'm going to pay attention to your comments. So as you're going through the video, whatever you guys are noticing, you guys comment.
The US is on the brink of the largest ever arms sale to Israel since the October 7th Hamas attack. The Biden administration has clearance for $61 billion to support Ukraine's war effort as well. To the layperson, it might look like magnanimity of the US to protect friendly nations and partners. But it's never that simple. What does the US gain from funding ongoing wars? Can the US sustain its economy without wars? I'm Shivan Janna. Welcome to Game Plan.
All right, so Uncle Brother just said, we're going to pause it for a second. Uncle Brother just said, Israel uses the money we send over there to fund AIPAC. Interesting. Interesting, because then we can connect a lot of dots on when we look at, okay, if Israel's using the money to fund AIPAC, it's interesting to see what AIPAC's money is spent on. It's interesting to see. And that's like a whole, that'll lead us down a rabbit hole to talk about how the squad with Jamal Bowman and Corey, I forget her last name, and how a lot of money was put up for the candidates that AIPAC wanted to support that were going against Jamal Bowman and Corey. Corey, I forget your last name. But this was the group that AOC was supposedly in. And a lot of people have said that AOC changed her tune and that we noticed that AIPAC was not supporting AOC, who AOC was running against. And they didn't have like the typical, I guess, the beef that a lot of the other candidates have. And it seems like AOC has changed her tune a little bit. So I don't know. Corey Bush. Yeah, Corey Bush. Appreciate that, Uncle Brother. But yeah, so you're well aware of it, right? Like it seems that Corey Bush, you know, those squad members, Corey Bush and Jamal Bowman, they lost in the primaries. So they didn't even lose going against the Republicans. They lost against in their own primaries. And then not only did they lose, the other, I forget, Tabibi, not the other lady, I believe she's Muslim, who's a member of the squad. Uncle Brother, help me out a little bit here. She was the one that was calling out AOC for her now softer stance in asking for a ceasefire between Israel and Palestine. So a lot of people are noticing AOC changing up her tune a little bit, where she used to be the one, you know, super liberal, super left, and now she's kind of adjusting to what makes sense for her to have a position possibly if Kamala Harris wins. So let's keep going with the video. Rashida Tlaib, Uncle Brother coming through.
As Israel continues its deadly onslaught on Hamas since last October, the US is about to close a major arms sale to the Jewish nation that includes 50 F-15 fighter jets worth more than $18 billion, air-to-air missiles, and joint direct attack munition kits. As per reports, the weaponry will largely be financed by the $3.3 billion in US taxpayer funds that Washington provides Israel annually.
So just to be clear, for a lot of people that hear America first, a lot of people aren't necessarily aware of what people mean by that particular group, America first. And what a lot of those individuals are pushing, in my opinion, is looking out for your interest at home and taking care of the things that need to be taken care of at home before you go and worry about what's going on down the street, around the corner, the next town with other neighbors in other communities. Figuring out what's going on here. This may be the reason why it's beneficial for the US to get involved in everybody else's conflict, whether we're directly involved or whether we're just funding it. And when I say we're just funding it, I'm talking about the American people, of course, because where do we think these funds are coming from? Taxpayers. So this is what, in my opinion, what gives us the right to have a stance and to have a take on it. And for us to voice our opinion, I think it's necessary because it's coming out of our money. This is what, when we talk about raising taxes, this is what our tax dollars go to. When we pay our federal taxes, it's going to funding efforts like this. So therefore, if the people do not support it, then we need to let our voices be known, whether that's voting for a particular candidate or otherwise.
Since 2022, the US Congress has passed 5 bills worth around $175 billion in aid to Ukraine's war with Russia. A study has shown that 90% of Ukraine aid dollars are not actually sent to Ukraine after all. Rather, these funds stay in the US, where leading defense contractors have invested tens of billions in over 100 new industrial manufacturing facilities, creating thousands of jobs across at least 38 states directly, with vital subcomponents sourced from all 50 US states. A map.
So let me ask y'all a question. I was thinking yesterday, I am 100% for peace. I am not with war at all. Don't see the benefit of it. To me, it's just most of the time people that have nothing, the least amount to do with the gains that comes from the war, and they're going to take the most losses that come from the war. So what do I mean by that? Usually the politicians and the people that have a lot of big money behind what we're learning about right now, they're not going to be impacted by any war. They're sitting up safe and sound with the best protection. They're not worried about any of this. And this is in the United States as well as other countries, I believe. However, the people that are impacted the most and the people that risk their lives the most, those are just the common folk. Those are the common folk. Now, it used to be even worse. Now we got drones and stuff like that. But when we have drones and we're dropping bombs on people, most of the time, in my opinion, the people that we're dropping bombs on, those aren't the people that you actually got beef with. Now, obviously, it could be a bit different depending on the war. But in my opinion, we have our countries that they amp us up with propaganda and manipulation, and they convince us why it's important for us to go to war, why it's important for us to have a hand in this, why it's important for us to support our neighbor over here because a threat to democracy, one place is a threat to democracy. Any place. Y'all know we've heard all the quotes. We get it. We get all of that. But is it really about supporting other people? And in my opinion, or I should ask the question, do we really need to go to war to figure out these type of or solutions to these type of problems? Because, I mean, if you listen to Trump, Trump believes that we don't need to go to war to figure out the solutions to these problems. And in my opinion, the threat sometimes should weigh heavier than once you actually go forward, with, I should say, some military action. I don't think that the U.S., I think that we have a big enough, people know exactly who we are and what we're capable of and what we're willing to do to protect our own personal interest. I think that people are well aware of what the U.S. will do when it comes to that. So I think that a lot of these other countries, we don't need to get involved and support a war. We could come in and big brother all of these type of situations and say like, nah, all this stuff is stopping now. And since y'all couldn't figure out this conflict on your own, now it's impacting us. Now it's impacting our allies. Now it's impacting us because now it could potentially turn into something much bigger that we now have to get involved in. So why get involved with it when it goes out of control, when you can just get involved with it now or months ago or in the beginning before it bubbles out of control? Like, why would you not want to like temper the flame now rather than to allow it to grow into something that you can't stop? And the reason why is because the bigger the war gets, the more money that's coming back to the military industrial industry. That's just, is what it is. What does Queez always say on here? Follow the money. When we start following the money, we understand exactly what Uncle Brother was talking about earlier when he said the money laundering. And exactly, it starts to make sense because when people used to say that, like Joe Biden and a lot of other people, like they're just sending money, that money that's being sent to Ukraine, it's money laundering. I never understood what they were saying. Now it is very clear what they were saying.
Published by the Pentagon shows the impact of the Ukraine Security Assistance Program on U.S. industry as of 15th January.
And that's a great point. That's a great point. Uncle Brother wrote, yes, I try to avoid saying us or we when speaking about the U.S. government. They're not repping us with all this war and conflict. They're waging with our money. Yeah, we don't have anything to do with this. I don't think that the average American is sitting in their house saying like, yeah, let's go support this war. Let's go support that war. No, that is why they have to go so hard with the propaganda. That is why they have to call Putin an evil dictator and all this. That's why they have to build that up. The same reason they have to call Trump Hitler to scare us into voting for Kamala. They're doing the very same thing. And did it ever occur to a lot of us? I don't know. let's look at it like this. No matter which side of the fence you're on, let's say that you're a staunch Democrat. A staunch Democrat, you love Kamala Harris. When you hear Fox News and other conservative platforms say different things about Kamala Harris that may be exaggerated, you're sitting here and you don't believe it, right? Because you're like, yo, they're just lying. Now let's say that you're a staunch Republican or you're a MAGA guy or a MAGA girl. When you hear people on MSNBC and ABC and CNN and a bunch of other platforms, when you hear Joy Reid talking about Trump and them saying that he's a threat to democracy and referencing him to Hitler, when you hear all these things, as a MAGA person, you're sitting here saying like, yo, they're just blatantly lying, right? So it's easy for us to see that both sides lie. Now my question is, why do we think they're not doing the same thing with Putin and a lot of these other leaders throughout the world? Just because they don't align with our way of life, our culture, our ideologies. Why do we not think, why do we just, it's like we hear when we're talking, when we think about it from a Republican Democrat standpoint, we will totally acknowledge like, yo, they're lying. Like they're just blatantly lying. And we will know it. We won't have to think it, we'll know it. But then when it comes to a lot of these other world leaders, it's like we just accept that now, oh yeah, they were lying about, the US politicians, but they're telling the truth about Putin. They're telling the truth about these other world leaders. So for me, it always goes to like, yo, I wonder how Putin really is. I wonder how some of these other world leaders really are. Because if I didn't live in America and I'm looking at some of the stuff going on here, I would be thinking that America has gone crazy. Matter of fact, living in America, thinking back to how life was 15 years ago, if I had a glimpse into the future about how a lot of stuff would be happening, got men playing women's, I would be looking at it like, yo, these people are crazy. So I don't know, neither here nor there. Let's just continue with the video.
The value of defense contracts amounts to $33.6 billion and counting. Simply put, American support for Ukraine is not charity. It's a self-investment in America's economic and national security that is already paying off. US also approved a package worth $8 billion to strengthen Taiwan's deterrence against China. It covers a wide range of parts and services aimed at maintaining and upgrading Taiwan's military hardware, which clearly means it will boost maintaining and...
Y'all see that? So it says at the bottom of the screen, June 19, 2024, Taiwan thanks U.S. for latest arms sale at a time of growing U.S.-China tensions. This is why the U.S., we need to be aware of this. We need to be aware of this. I think that we need to be aware of this. Maybe a lot of people are thinking, well, who cares? They're just going to do what they want to do. Nah, we need to be aware of this because we can figure out how we can put ourselves in the safest position and most responsible position here in the U.S. by simply who we're voting for. Because I know a lot of us, I've never experienced war. I've never experienced, having to, like a lot of these other countries where a bomb drops and you have to go to shelter. We've never experienced that. We're more scared about, we grew up more thinking about an intruder coming into the school rather than another country sending something our way. That's just the reality of the life that we grew up in. So therefore, we don't even really have a certain appreciation maybe that we should have for a lot of these issues. We don't. So if hopefully it doesn't happen, but like anything else, when it starts to hit the fan and things start to impact us directly, maybe we'll pay more attention to this, because all of this money that we're putting out, it's like we're trying to be indirectly impact a lot of these situations that we put our nose in without being directly involved. But if you put the money up to arm a nation, you are directly involved in that. How would you feel if you were involved in an altercation, I don't know, in America, just in your day-to-day life, where somebody else was providing them support in whatever way? One of your homies is providing support to one of your ops to come at you in whatever way. It could be on the job. I'm sitting here going for another position, and one of my mans that I go to lunch with every day, they're feeding information to the person that I'm competing for the raise for. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of how I'm looking at it. We need to be aware of this because our money that we're putting out there, our tax dollars that we're allowing to be sent to support all of these war efforts. And obviously, when I say sent to them, I'm saying sent back to us. But when it comes to supporting them, because we're sending them the military weapons, eventually, what did Malcolm X say? The chickens are going to come home to roost. It just is what it is. You can't be responsible for putting out all of this evil. You can't be Nikki Haley, who's signing bombs that are going to go to Israel, that are eventually going to kill Palestinians, and think that your hands are just clean. We can't be that stupid. And maybe I shouldn't say the word stupid, but we can't be that naive. We can't be that naive to think that we're putting out all this evil into all these areas in the world, and that eventually that's not going to come back to us. It just doesn't make sense to me. So a lot of people may have, and just like when I was a freshman, I was 14 years old when 9/11 happened. And I was sitting here like, yo, how could this happen? What happened? Because I was so naive. I had no idea. Now I'm looking at it like, yeah. Like, why? Like, that's other countries' reality. We're just so spoiled here because we've had it so good here. But when you constantly mess with and get involved in other situations, what do we think is going to eventually happen to us? We're going to catch a stray or something direct. Let's keep going.
Upgrading Taiwan's military hardware, which clearly means it will boost US economy.
Oh, my fault. Okay. So Maya said Gaddafi is the perfect example. Matter of fact, we should do a show on Gaddafi. We should really do a show on Gaddafi because it's I'll be totally honest. And shout out to that guy in the trash can 42. And 42, that's a special number for me as well. So shout out to you. He said, hey, dude, I'm going to head to bed. Got work in the morning. Your content needs to be recognized by a lot of people. It's incredible. Well, it takes all of us. But shout out to you. Get some rest, and make sure that you tap in with us on the show and you finish it out maybe on your way to work. But Maya said Gaddafi is the perfect example. It's the perfect example in a lot of ways because, and this is why I say I still need to do more of a deep dive into it. Because the more I looked into Gaddafi, and you know what's so crazy? This is how ignorant and how a lot of us are. And I'm going to speak about my own ignorance and just growing up and how strong propaganda can play a role in our outlook and perspective in life. Just Gaddafi's name, his name, and the things that I would hear growing up, I thought like, yo, nah, he's a terrorist. Literally, that's what I'm telling y'all. I had no idea who he was. I'm telling you, just the things that I heard, whether it was like through Hillary, Barack, like that's what I grew up thinking. And then the more I did research on him, I'm like, hold up. Like, dude was just standing up for his people. And America didn't like that. Dude was standing up for the independence of his people. And America didn't like that. It's like when the most powerful kid in the class, you know, they get threatened by somebody who's like, nah, I don't need to do, y'all got what y'all got going on. We doing what we building over here. We're doing something different. We don't need to align ourselves with y'all currency y'all got going on. We got something going on over here. And then what happens? They create this narrative, all this propaganda around him. Who knows if it's true? Most of us just believed it. And then what happens when he's killed? It to us in our minds, it sounds justified. We don't lose any sleep over it. We don't even question it. We just believe what they've told us. Oh, he's a threat, so therefore he had to go. Because we always see the things through the people. We see the world through the lens of the people that run this country. And unless we do due diligence, like unless we're the type of people that other people will call conspiracy theorists, or we're okay with going down certain rabbit hole, unless we're okay with hearing something that the governor or the government tells us, and we're the type of people that just don't accept it and do our own due diligence, and that's a chosen few. But unless we are those type of people, we will forever be lost. There's no way that we'll know this information. We'll just hear certain things and we'll just go with it. It's like Trump might as well have written Project 2025. He might as well have written the entire thing, get rid of everybody else who contributed to it, Trump, he wrote the whole thing. He might as well have written the whole thing. Why? Because that's what we've heard. That's what's being presented to us. That's what the fear, they're playing on our fears and insecurities, using that to convince us to support what they got going on. It's just how it goes. All right. Uncle Brother wrote, indeed, Maya, they totally smeared Gaddafi because he was on the verge of empowering the continent with his own gold-backed currency, amongst other things. And that scared the U.S. to death with our monopoly money. That's what ended up happening. That cleared the way for them to take him out. So let's keep going with the video.
By creating more jobs to provide these services. What's more interesting here is that apart from the $8 billion, separately, Taiwan has signed billions in contracts with the US for latest generation F-16V fighter jets, M1 Abrams battle tanks, and the HIMARS rocket system, which...
And when we wonder why somebody like Nikki Haley goes into government with not a lot of money, but then after a couple years in whatever position that they're in, fighting for war and pushing all these agendas of getting us involved in wars, and when they walk away, the next thing we look up and they got millions of dollars. Well, in any deal, when you middleman any deal and you support any deal, whether you are in sales for your company, whether you're just a consultant that connects certain people, you can connect certain people like, hey, this company's, they need this position. They need a manager in this position or a VP. Hey, I'm the person that connects them to the VP. I usually get something. It usually brings me some value. So that's what's happening with a lot of these politicians. If they are the ones that are connecting the dots, or they are the ones that are pushing a deal through, then what usually happens when somebody pushes a deal through, you get some type of commission, you get some type of royalties, just like RFK Jr. pointed out with our boy Fauci when he said what Fauci was receiving. I don't want to get into the detail because the last time I spoke about that, they flagged the YouTube. They shut my whole live down and gave me a warning. So I don't want to get too far into it. But let's keep going.
The US has also supplied to Ukraine. This basically means more contracts for American defense companies as the US supports Taiwan's resistance against China. Owing to India's border tensions with China, which came to a boil in 2020, US also pledged support to India in its deterrence against China. But this is an age-old US tactic that it applied back in 1971 as well, when it encouraged China to act against India and assured India of military support in case China attacked. The truth is, US needs India to counter China in the Indo-Pacific, and India is playing its cards wisely. US is now applying similar tactics with the Philippines as it offers to defend it against China.
Yeah. Total separate question. Does anybody think that the world is a better place with war? Does anybody think that the world is a better place with war? We got wars. Let's look at our country. The reason why we have a bunch of the migrant crisis is because of wars that are going on in different places throughout the world and people seeking asylum, right? Wars. I said the other day that there's positives that come from anything, right? There's positives that come from everything. What's so funny is when I said that there's, and I don't want to get too far into this, but when they always talk about, we were talking about the other day with DeSantis and how in Florida they wrote that the slaves had benefited from slavery, from learning certain skills. And we got into the conversation about that. I don't even want to get back into that. But I made the comment, I said, there's always a positive to everything, right? But a lot of people would say that, hey, there's no positive to slavery. It doesn't matter what you say. There's no positive, no benefits. Cool. Are there any benefits to war? I guess there are some. Some people's pockets get lined. Some people get wealthy. You take other people's land. But think about the benefits that come from it. Think about the benefits that come from it, because it's very easy for a lot of people to say there were no benefits from slavery. I don't care if I learned skills. I don't care if I... Very easy for people to say that. But where's the same energy when it comes to wars? And the reason why people say that when it comes to slavery is because they don't necessarily mean that there's no benefits. They mean that the negatives overwhelmingly outweighed any potential benefits. So therefore, you might as well just not even say it was a benefit. It's disrespectful to even say it. Okay. What about when it comes to war? The negatives outweigh the positives or any potential benefits by far. But it's like we just sit back and just, cool, we're at war. It's all good. They're always warring over there. Yeah, but we're supporting it. And eventually that's going to come to our shores, right? It's going to wash up on our shores. We'll see if we like it. But it's like anything else. It's like anything else. We hear it all the time. People don't care about something until it impacts their home. People won't care about anything until it hits their doorstep. But the problem with that is when it hits our doorstep, then it's too late. Now you're whining and crying for everybody else to support you when you didn't support everybody else when it was hitting their doorsteps.
China in the South China Sea, but Philippines is treading cautiously as well. The American economy thrives on wars. US eyes nations which it can support in wars against larger adversaries like Russia and China, which US itself is at odds with. The US pushes these nations forward while it stands behind. And this keeps the US economy moving well and keeps its adversaries occupied. What happens to the nations which get sandwiched in the middle is no secret. By arming Israel and Ukraine to the teeth, the only party that will profit from this is America's defense industry, the military-industrial complex. Now,
you know what sucks about the entire thing is that, and I know Zelensky, president of Ukraine, I know he met with Kamala Harris as well as Trump. You know what's so bad about the entire thing is that Zelensky will make a lot of money off of it. Zelensky will be in the press. Zelensky will be getting a spotlight. I didn't know who Zelensky was before there was this situation between Ukraine and Russia. So Zelensky, he's embracing the spotlight. He's he's cozying up, getting closer with Trump, getting closer with Kamala, right? All these things, right? He's getting money and funding. He's in the mix. Let's not act like we don't know how we all can act when the spotlight is on us, right? Let's not act as if we're above that. The people who are suffering the most are the actual people who are fighting. The people who are fighting. This is, you know what? Maybe things should go back towards. Maybe things should go back to. There was a line in. We always go back to Troy. Hold on. There was a line in Troy where Achilles, when the first scene, y'all know everybody's favorite scene where Achilles is sleeping. He laid up, had a nice night with the ladies. Young boy comes to grab him like, yo, you late for the war. He pulls up, they chanting Achilles. They know what it is. Achilles about to do what Achilles does. And then he's about to walk away from Agamemnon because he says, imagine a day where kings fight their own wars. Maybe Biden should be going to fight somebody. Why don't y'all go fight in a boxing match or y'all go fight to the death if y'all want to do that? Because risking everybody else's life while you're not willing to risk your own, to me, that's very cowardly. If that's what you're pushing for. It's like people who sit here and stand on stuff and talk about different wars going on right now and say they should kill them. They should kill them. Why don't you go get involved? Go get involved if that's how you really feel. Why are you sitting over here and sitting on the couch eating snacks, typing on the computer or typing on your phone, being a tough guy? Go over there. Go support, go stand on what you believe in if you believe in it so much, because when you say certain things like other people should be being killed and you're not willing to get involved in that, to me, that's cowardly. That's cowardly. So my point is that you have all these world leaders, these politicians, all of these powerful people that are putting the people that are not powerful. Like, it's like Kamala Harris wants to talk about the middle class and embracing the middle class, right? Okay, like you care for the people, right? All these presidents and stuff, when they're more Democrat and liberal, they want to act like they care for the people. But the people, when you get involved in your little wars, when you're fixing George Bush is dealing with his own personal family issues, trying to make it seem like we're getting involved with wars to address your issues that your daddy had with people. to make it seem like certain people had an involvement in 9/11 when y'all know that they didn't, just to justify us getting involved in a war that they had nothing to do with. But because they got names like Hussein and stuff like that, we just hear the name and we're like, oh, nah, they got to be a terrorist. They got to be a terrorist. We are allowing powerful people to sacrifice people with less power whenever we are involved in a war, because that's what's happening. That's what's happening. I just went back, go back and watch. Y'all should go back and watch King Arthur. King Arthur was getting busy. Like, King Arthur became a king. King Arthur was the head of the Knights of the Round Table. He was getting busy. He was a military person. Then he became a king. I respect that more than what's going on here, because people who don't have to risk their lives, we can never count on people to make decisions about risking other people's lives if they're not risking their lives as well. That's just my opinion. Uncle Brother wrote, absolutely not. I'm with you. Totally anti-war. Same here, bro. The only benefit from war is the defense industry. More war equals more profits for weapon manufacturers. Meanwhile, half of the adult men in Ukraine have died. How are we okay with this? And to be totally honest, I'm sure there's a lot of Ukrainians that do not like this. I'm sure. How do you have half of the adult men die from a war over what? And this is the thing. Half of the men are going to die. We're going to go to war. People are going to be killed. And then what's going to eventually happen? Then there's going to be a peace treaty. Why couldn't we just skip past or skip over it or avoid the people dying part and then just figure out a peace treaty? Why don't we put more pressure on our candidates? And we can do it very, very easily. If you get us involved in war, we're not voting for you. Simple, right? We don't support people who like to get involved in war. Which is, I remember going back, y'all know how I feel about the Democrats. Y'all know how I feel about the Democrats. And I remember going back to this moment. I was down in Miami and I called my dad and I said, after I heard that, I think it was the second Republican debate, where right after the situation first occurred with Palestine and with Hamas and Israel, when it first kicked off, and all those Republican candidates that were fighting in the primary, they were like kind of competing to say like how much destruction they would cause the Palestinians. And I'm sitting here like, what? This is crazy. And I remember calling my dad and I said, yo, if Biden figures out a way to stop this right now, I will consider voting for him. That's how much I'm just sitting. I just don't like war. It's senseless. It's stupid. It puts all of the people in danger. It just for the benefit of the wealthy. It is the most elitist thing. War is the most elitist thing that can happen. And we contribute to it by ignoring our involvement in all these wars, but continuing, and when I say ignoring our involvement, and continuing to support candidates that just want to go to war. All right, let me Uncle Brother wrote, Zelensky was wearing latex pants and stilettos dancing to all the single ladies before they tapped him to be the face of all this BS. They scrubbed the video evidence when it went viral too. Yep. Just more promotion of that particular community, and we know what that community is. If you didn't catch it, you didn't catch it. Maya wrote, half was an exaggeration, but it's been a lot. I think over 100,000 men. All right, I appreciate you clarifying. No, that's good. That's good. But over a significant portion of the men. A significant portion of the men. But I guess when we look at it, men are meaningless anyway, right? We don't really need men, right? That's the energy that we're on right now, right? Isn't that Western culture energy? So if it's just the men, maybe that's another conspiracy to see. Now you could already see where I'm going with this. Jill Stein is the only anti-war candidate. I can't say that, Maya. I believe Trump is anti-war. And I know that RFK Jr., who is now with Trump, was anti-war. That's one of the things that actually got him away from the Democratic Party. So I would say that Trump is anti-war. in these situations. Now, he may not be anti-war as, a Jill Stein, or even an RFK, but I think that for these particular wars, he is against. I will say that. So let's keep going with this video. It's almost done.
Now, reports suggest US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken has promised Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu that Washington would remove all restrictions on weapons transfers to Israel in the coming days. I've laid out the entire game plan for you based on research. Now tell me, if there is a third world war, who do you think will gain the most and who do you think will suffer? Let me know in the comments.
It's scary. It's scary. Let's really think about how scary it is. Look at how we reacted to a virus in 2020. How just think about how we were behaving. How we behaved in the supermarkets with toilet paper. We fighting over toilet paper. Think about the chaos that would come about if we had bombs dropping on us. Think about it. As bad as 9/11 is, there's a lot of as bad as 9/11 is. Think about how 9/11 impacted us. Now imagine you're living in some of these other countries to where that's just the norm. That's just the norm. It is what it is. We have to take this type of stuff into consideration. And if we don't, in my opinion, we're going to be lost, and we're going to be people that contribute to a lot of these causes. And there's going to be blood on our hands where we don't even know where it came from. We're sitting there naive. Like, how did we get involved with this? Well, you voted for candidates that are with it. You voted for candidates that benefit from going to war. So that's why we go to war. All right. So enough of that. All right. So I wanted to show this because this was an interesting development. And I didn't speak on it last week with Mayor Adams, but I should have touched on it. So we'll touch on it here. And, I was talking to my mom. I'm like, yeah, what is Eric Adams even being charged of? Like, I don't even get what's going on. So let's look at a couple of these videos. We're going to look at one from Mayor Eric Adams, and then we're going to look at some of Trump's response to it and kind of just figure out what's going on. So let's take a look.
These upgrades and freebies were.
Let's take a look here. Oh, we already got it on. All right, we locked in.
Not part of some frequent flyer or. As we allege, Mayor Adams took these contributions even though he knew they were illegal. And even though he knew these contributions were attempts by a Turkish government official and Turkish businessmen to buy influence with him.
Now, after a string of investigations into many top leaders in New York City, from education to the sheriff, Mayor Eric Adams is himself being charged, pleading not guilty to federal bribery and fraud. The mayor has been indicted on 5 counts. He says he will fight each of these charges, which he believes are politically motivated. Now, at the same time, he quietly issued a new executive order changing the line of succession. The new order outlines in the event the first deputy mayor is unable to fulfill the functions of mayor, the deputy mayor for Health and Human Services would be next in line. Mayor Adams is charged with those 5 federal corruption charges, which include wire fraud, bribery, and solicitation of a contribution by a foreign national. The Department of Justice says that Mayor Adams is facing up to 45 years in prison if convicted on all counts and given the maximum sentence. Here's News Nation's Caitlin Becker.
His downfall is happening as mayor, but this alleged scheme goes as far back as nearly a decade when he was Brooklyn Borough president. Mayor Eric Adams indicted this week on multiple criminal charges. The historic home of the New York City mayor, Gracie Mansion.
All right, so let me give y'all a little bit of details. My mom sent me this. She sent me this when I asked her. I said, what is he getting charged for? So let me read this. In a sprawling 57-page indictment unsealed a day earlier, U.S. Attorney for the Southern District in New York, Damian Williams, the gentleman that you saw, I think that was the first gentleman that we saw, laid out a decade-long scheme where Adams allegedly accepted flight upgrades, hotel room stays, luxury travel and meals estimated to cost around $123,000 from Turkish officials in exchange for public favors. One of those alleged favors included Adams pressuring FDNY officials to expedite the building approvals for the 36-story Turkish consulate in Midtown so the Turkish president could be at its opening while visiting New York. Prosecutors also allege Adams solicited and accepted donations from foreign Turkish donors funneled through illegal straw donations that were given to buy his favor. The indictment has caused uproar among hundreds of thousands of city employees and political turmoil locally and on a national scale ahead of a heated presidential election. So a little more information on it. Little more information. But yeah, Queez, you already see where it's going, right? You already see where it's going. Let's keep going.
The feds early Thursday morning seizing his phones. Adams is accused.
And Queez, tell me why you may have thought this was coming. Because we covered a video a while back that I'm going to play after all of this, that when he did it, I think a lot of us were sitting there like, yo, he's kind of bucking his own party right there. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. Add a little excitement for
Used in a 57-page indictment of accepting bribes in the form of luxury travel, first-class flights, five-star hotels for little or no money, furnished by allegedly a Turkish government official. Now, these alleged dealings happened as far back as 2015.
These upgrades and freebies were not part of some.
My question is, when they do these investigations, at what point do they decide, let's investigate this person? When they say that this investigation goes back 10 years ago, did they start the investigation 10 years ago? Or did they start it when people say something that pisses off a particular group and then they decide, hey, yeah, he not acting right. He's not staying in line. We got to show that boy. We got to get that boy back in line. And they probably talk to him, say, hey, yo, you tighten up. If he doesn't don't worry about it. We got it. And then we start to investigate. And to be totally honest, how these politicians are moving, you probably have to be so strict in all of your dealings. Now, if he's accused of the things that he was doing, I mean, if he's found, if he actually did the things that he's accused of, then, all right, bro, you kind of know that you kind of set yourself up for this. But clearly, what would y'all do, man? What would y'all do? And obviously, I'm not saying that we would take bribes or anything like that, but a lot of times this stuff is presented one way when it may be something totally different. If I went out to Turkey, I'm the mayor, or I'm in a particular position and I get cool with somebody, let's say, and they say, yo, come out here, come stay with us. Would love to have you visit Turkey, get more involved. And then they become cool. I don't know. Mayor Adams may call the fire department and say like, yo, my buddy was asking me about, what's the deal with this building? Is it? And then things can kind of, who knows? I'm just speculating. But what I'm asking is, if he stayed in line or if he didn't piss off anybody, would this have been an issue? Would these things have been brought up? And if not, then I want to know who he pissed off and why he pissed them off. And that's a start, I guess, right? I don't know. Maybe am I looking at it wrong?
Loyalty program available to the general public. As we allege, this was a multi-year scheme to buy favor with a single New York City politician on the rise, Eric Adams.
And that's just one prong of the accusations. There are also
and I just want to make sure I'm queuing up the comments. So Queez wrote, they knew about it all along. That's what I'm saying. That boy is crazy. That's how you better get that boy back in line. That boy came out there confident, talking about this issue is going to destroy New York City. Like, bro, you better stay in your place. You don't ever say anything like that, because that makes people sit back and say like, oh, we're going to destroy perhaps the greatest city in the world. Like, that's what's going to happen. So when you start, we'll get into it. We'll get into it. Maya wrote, I'm sure he did the same way most politicians do. This is not out the norm. I agree. I'm sure that what he did, like, it's almost like the analogy of if a cop follows behind you for 15 minutes, they're going to find something that you did, right? They're going to find something. So It's the same thing with Eric Adams. Maybe we should be impressed that they had to go back 10 years. I don't know. Maybe we should be impressed at the fact that they had to go back 10 years to find something on him. I don't know. I'm just saying, because a lot of this stuff, when they try to present it in a particular way, he took bribes. Like, we're hearing all the charges and we're like, damn, he did all that? He did all that? And then it's like, when you actually hear the story, it's like, oh, well, yeah, I'm sure a lot of politics, but that doesn't make it right. So that's the problem when you get involved in a lot of these groups. If you don't toe that line, and then it's going to be a problem. Then it's going to be a problem, because now they're looking at all the other stuff. So My wrote, he said in his press conference, this only happened because he stood up for New Yorkers. This only happened because he stood up for New Yorkers.
Campaign finance issues. The U.S. attorney says that Adams filled his campaign coffers with foreign money, stole from New Yorkers in his run for mayor, and then made up a fake paper trail in order to cover it up. Key members of Adams's administration have already started to resign in the midst of the scandal. Recent resignations include the mayor's chief counsel, the NYPD commissioner, New York City Public Schools chancellor, and the New York City health commissioner.
Yo, that's a lot of people. And I think I heard him say that, like, yo, people leave administrations all the time. I don't know. Is that the case? Because this seems like pretty substantial, pretty significant. But that doesn't mean anything. They could have got pressured. We all know well, we've seen movies. So as far as I'm concerned, the movies are the reality. The movies may give us more truth than the news stations nowadays. Let's just be honest. So what happens in the movies? Hey, yeah, we're going to need you to resign, or else we're going to show this. Like, or we got some Diddy videos of you that don't make you look too good. So therefore, it may be in your best interest to resign. We'll set you up with a little package over here, but we're gonna need you to resign because we had Diddy set you up with these. I'm just joking. I'm just joking about that. I don't want people thinking like, the commissioner, he was involved with it. Nah. I'm not saying that. I was completely just joking. But we know how these situations happen where they can pressure people to walk away from positions that they're in and not say a word.
NYPD commissioner, New York City Public Schools chancellor, and the New York City health commissioner. The scandal-plagued politician is facing numerous calls to resign, but he's really dug in his heels, vowing to plow forward with both his mayoral duties and his criminal defense.
Stand on it.
Say who's the point person that's going to deal with business communities, who's going to deal with the business of running the city? The point person is Eric Adams. I'm the mayor of the city of New York, and I have a competent team. A competent team of deputy mayors, a competent team of people.
Who is this uppity nigga? I'm just joking because I'm just. That's how they looking at him. Let's be real. Yeah. They like, we put him in this position. The nerve of this uppity Negro to think that he could call us out of. I'm just. It'll all make sense when I play the next video, but I know that's how people looking at him. I know.
Are going to continue to lead forward, and we're excited about that.
He might not have a choice, though. Governor Kathy Hochul has the power to remove Adams from his position, and sources are telling News Nation she's seriously considering it as more and more information comes to light about the alleged corruption within his administration. Now, if Hochul does remove Mayor Adams, NYC's public advocate Jumaane Williams would assume the role and then schedule a special election, which could take place within 90 days.
Thanks so much for watching. Go to join and end.
All right, so y'all gotta look at this other video. All right, boom. So this was Trump responding to the situation.
A fair trial. Can Mayor Adams get a fair trial here?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the mayor well, but he's.
This is what's happening. This is what I see that's happening. Democrats are in panic mode right now. That's why the migrants are coming in. That's why a lot of this stuff is going on. In my opinion, that's why Diddy locked up. Like nobody, like the people that they used to have power over, in my opinion, they just, we good. And the Democrats are moving how they move. Now, I don't know this, but this is how I'm just observing it. This is what it looks like to me. And it's causing a lot of Democrats previously, or people who identified as Democrat, because there's a lot of y'all that are conservative. Y'all are men, but y'all identify, you know how to y'all are not transgender. Y'all are trans politicians. Y'all are trans politically. Y'all are trans because y'all know that y'all are conservative at heart, but y'all just keep identifying as Democrats and liberals. So there's a lot of these trans politics people trans politically. I don't know. We need to come up with a word. Somebody help me out. But what's happening is, why is Cornel West now? And Cornel West, to be fair, has always spoken out against the Democrats and has always warned us against them. But you got Bernie Sanders. He called out the Democrats. He called out Kamala. He called out Kamala pretty much saying like, yeah, she's going to say whatever she needs to say in order to try to gain support from people. But at the end of the day, once she gets in office, she's not going to do all those things. She's going to go back to who she was. Look it up. Go check out with Bernie Sanders. Why is Tulsi Gabbard, who ran for Democratic president, who was in the primary, why is she now over there with Trump? Why is RFK Jr. coming from a family of Democrats, lifelong Democrats? And as he always says it, he's like, look at my principles and what I'm running on. These are all Democratic policies. It's the Democratic Party that left me. I didn't leave the Democratic Party. So when you have all these people that were previously Democrat, Eric Adams, isn't Eric Adams a Democrat? I believe so. So what's end up happening is Democrats are in such a panic mode. Anybody that doesn't total line and support exactly what they say, it doesn't matter the extreme measures that they go to, these people are going to have a problem. That's what they're saying. And some people are just saying like, yo, it is what it is. My obligation is to New York City. I'm New York City's mayor. If I put my Eric Adams voice on, I'm New York City's mayor, so I'm standing up for the people. You know what I mean? Like, he's not worried about what y'all got going on, where y'all got going on. You know what I'm saying? He's worried about his people. And what we're starting to see is a realignment. We're starting to see a realignment with a whole bunch of people that would never be seen anything close to the Republican Party. Now, because of Donald Trump, because of how things are happening, a lot of people are looking that way. A lot of people are looking that way, whether they admit it or not.
He's been fairly generous to me in his statements.
They false flag
a while. I thought you had the worst mayor ever that we had prior to him. I will say this. I watched about a year ago when he talked about how the illegal migrants are hurting our city and the federal government should pay us and we shouldn't have to take them. And I said, you know what? He'll be indicted within a year. And I was exactly right, because that's what we have. We have people that use the Justice Department and the FBI at levels that have never been seen before. So I wish him luck. I don't know anything about what he did, but I told a lot of people right over there, that group was saying, you know, sir, you were right about that. When they mentioned that, I said, they came in and he was pretty strong about it. He said, this is really unfair to make us carry this burden. We shouldn't be doing this. This is New York City. I mean, your parks are loaded up. I just passed recently Madison Avenue, the Roosevelt Hotel. It's like nobody would recognize it. That's Midtown. But he came out very strongly against it. He was right, by the way, because it's ruining our country. He was honest. And I said, he will be indicted within a year. And that's what happened. And I noticed the indictment's very old. It goes back a long time. Well, I had the same thing. They went way before the statute of limitations. So I wish him well, but I said that he will be indicted because he did that. You take a look. That's what they do. These are dirty players. These are bad people. They cheat and they do anything necessary. These are bad people. And we need an honest Justice Department. We need an honest FBI, and we need it fast. Yeah.
Yo, man. I don't know, man. And real quick, so does anybody remember where I got the uppity Negro comment from? What movie was that from? I'm gonna give you a hint. It was a basketball movie. And one of the players on the team was like, who is this uppity Negro, sir? Like, but they said the N-word. Wait, may have said Negro. I don't know. But what movie is it from? All right, so as you heard Trump reference, what Trump is referencing is when Mayor Eric Adams came out and said, like, yo, this migrant crisis, this going to destroy New York City. And when he said that, it was directly going against what the Democrats were doing, because the Democrats Biden and Harris, their administration was pushing and incentivizing the migrants to come in. You had Kathy Hochul, which was incentivizing the migrants to come in. And even hold on, to be totally honest, even Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, came out eventually after Mayor Eric Adams said it and said, like, yo, y'all can't come here. We understand y'all are seeking asylum, but y'all can't come here. So let's look at the video that may have got Mayor Eric Adams in trouble.
New at 11 now, Mayor Adams more passionate than we've seen about the asylum seeker crisis. As more buses arrived at Port Authority today, the mayor says the city is severely impacted by the influx of migrants. Speaking at a town hall meeting tonight on the Upper West Side, the mayor said that he doesn't see an end to this problem as the city is not getting enough support from the federal government.
This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City.
Once he, Queens got it. Queens got the Coach Carter. So when Timo Perez or what is his name? I forget. The main character, the one that was everybody was rooting for, that was struggling. And Samuel L. Jackson, Coach Carter, came in. He was like, who's this uppity Negro, sir? Bald head and everything. Yo, Eric Adams kind of looking like a little Samuel Jackson, a little bit, whatever. All right. So this is the video. Once he said that this issue will destroy New York City, to me, that put a target on his back. That put a target on his back because he's going against everything that his Democratic Party is responsible for. He's calling them out and blaming. He's not only calling them out, but what he's doing is he's validating everything that the Republicans have said as far as with the migrant crisis and the asylum seeker crisis, how it is destroying American cities and American communities. Whether we see it in Springfield, Ohio, whether we see it in Aurora, Colorado, whether we see it in various places in New York City. Once he said that, he put a target on his back. And what they probably did was come to him and say, like, and this is me just adding it in, and say, like, hey, bro, you got to figure that out. You got to reverse that. You got to, I don't know, figure that out. You got to. And if he wasn't willing to go in the direction that they set forth for him at that point, I'm sure they said, hey, we got to get him out of here. He's a potential problem. And I'm sure that they do this with most people in office, just how what Diddy's getting accused of, what Epstein was getting accused of, they have to keep dirt on everybody because they never know which way somebody's going to turn, who's going to move in a different direction, who's going to be influenced to kind of wake up and see things differently. So what they do is they get as much dirt as they can on everybody, and then they use it for leverage when they need to. Is that like such a foreign concept? Is that something that is not believable?
We're getting 10,000 migrants a month. Now we're getting people from all over the globe have made their minds up that they're going to come through the southern part of the border and come into New York City.
The mayor says the city currently supporting 110,000 asylum seekers that have arrived in the 5 boroughs since April of 2022.
What y'all thinking, man? What y'all thinking? In my opinion, that set off a lot of this. It set off a lot of these problems. A lot of them. So now what do we get to next? All right, so I'm going to show y'all. So there's a legal immigrant. He had some good comments on what's happening. I wanted to show y'all this other video, but maybe I'll wait until Wednesday to show you that one. But let's show you this video that I already got queued up. And then maybe I'll look for the other one that I just thought of. But take a look at this. Take a look at this and you let me know what you think. Oh, that's a good question. What happened to Cory Booker? Oh, no. What happened to Cory Booker? What's Cory Booker up to? Somebody let us know. Take a look at this video and let me know your thoughts.
Imagine what that would look like and what that would be.
Let me know your thoughts.
Hey, everyone. So take a listen to this Kamala clip and come right back.
Now they have pledged to carry out the largest deportation, a mass deportation in American history. Imagine what that would look like and what that would be.
So in this clip, Kamala is decrying the idea of a mass deportation plan. And for many people, the idea of mass deportation sounds callous and unfeeling, and may appear to be not representative of the generosity of Americans. Now, from my perspective, America is the most generous country by far. So to get people to the point where they are okay with mass deportation means something has fallen through the cracks. And the thing that has fallen through the cracks is the consent of the people. I remember when Hurricane Katrina hit in 2005, many people were displaced. And I remember Americans opening their homes, especially in Texas, to strangers who had been displaced by the hurricane in Louisiana. Many people opened their homes because of their own generosity, not because the government ordered them to. And every time there's a natural disaster in America or anywhere in the world, Americans rally together and show their generosity. So to get Americans to the point where they're open to mass deportation, that tells you that the government did not seek the consent of the people in allowing the mass influx of immigrants, illegal immigrants in many cases. Imagine waking up in...
And it's not Americans. Let's just be real. But I do believe what he's saying. And I meant to play this video last to kind of get us to, this kumbaya moment, of reflecting on how we do need to help out our neighbors and have more of a helpful mindset in certain instances. So I definitely I should have left this for the end. But what he's saying, I do believe there's a lot of truth to it. I believe that when people are not forced to help out other people because it's clearly just a political play for a politician or a political group, I do think that people support others. But I also think that because there's so much lying and propaganda and manipulation, people are seeing through a lot of this stuff. So in a lot of those situations, whether it was Katrina, whether it's any other disaster that we may have had years ago, we didn't have the certain social media that we had. We weren't able to see certain things. We weren't able to dig deep on a lot of these things as we are now and see past the BS of what the politicians are pushing through. Y'all tell me if that changes things. But the fact that they just pushed this on us, I agree with what the brother's saying. The fact that they just pushed us on it, that's like, yo, y'all pushing this on us and y'all haven't even, y'all are pushing this on us without even pushing to make the communities and the infrastructure in these impoverished communities where you're dropping a lot of these people in better before you bring them. So we understand that it's just a political play.
And seeing that the government overnight has dropped thousands of people onto your streets without any care on the pressure that puts on the infrastructure of the city. Imagine waking up and finding your community centers, your hotels, your schools overrun with migrants without your consent. This is how you manufacture hate. This is how you manufacture racism. This is how you manufacture bigotry, because most people will not be okay with waking up in the morning and finding their home filled with strangers, placed there without their consent. So the question is, if the government and the Democrats who have allowed this understand that by doing this, by bringing in thousands of migrants without the consent of the people, they will engender dissatisfaction. Why are they doing it? Unless it is their plan to sow chaos. And then they turn around and accuse the people who have been displaced of being xenophobic. Americans are generous, but the generosity of Americans has never been due to government diktat or coercion. It has always been voluntary and genuine. The fastest way to create hate, the fastest way to turn people against their fellow man, is to force them into a corner. And over the last 3.5 years, Kamala Harris, the border czar, has forced Americans into a corner. And come November 5th, it is my hope that Americans pay her back by helping her pack her bags out of the White House, send her back home to California, so she can reap the consequences of the policy she has imposed on the rest of us.
Sheesh. Okay, brother. We should have finished up the show on that note. But we shall not. We shall not. And when we think about this issue, what's funny is, and Ant wrote, it's easier to be generous when our economy isn't killing us first. And Ant had a hot take of America is letting in migrants to replace the disappearing working class and giving them a lot to nurture a false patriotism in the face of a possible war. Yeah, and from a simple standpoint, I heard that in 5 years or something, like they're going to have a lot of these people that came in here, they're going to grant them citizenship, so or grant them whatever they need to be able to vote. So we'll see. I guess I'll have to look into that. But when it comes to forcing people, when we talk about forcing people, this gentleman, he hit on something that I wasn't even going to make a connection. Now I'm glad that I played that video before the next video that I'm playing, because when we look at our society, there's been a lot of things that have been forced on us. Forced on us. Matter of fact, even when I was with it, Black Lives Matter, what ended up happening? We tried to force that on certain people. And then it created a certain level of hate within people who didn't even maybe have that hate before, because we're forcing it on you. Rather than the government coming out and just making certain, like the government didn't do a good job of policing that. It's like, think about what the government has done. It's the same thing with Israel and Palestine. It's like, yo, well, we'll tell the Palestinians we're with them and we're supporting them. We'll send them food, but then we're going to send Israel. We're going to make sure we send them some weapons so they can do. It's like, wait, there's a contradiction here. I'm not really following this. And it's the same thing that has happened in other areas. And what does it do? It ends up causing the same level of chaos and hate. And, oh, man, I kind of lost my train of thought. I was going to talk about Israel and Palestine. Okay, well, let me go to the next point, and then maybe I'll circle back on that one. Y'all know my mind is all over the place. But when we look at what they did with Israel and Palestine, it's like they constantly add fuel to fires and force us in certain situations, but try to act as if they're not involved. Look at what the LGBTQ community, forcing that stuff on us to the point where it's like, hold up, bro. Like, y'all really trying to force this on us? Nah, like, I'm not with that. Like, it's you're forcing it on. It's too aggressive. It's everywhere. It's more aggressive than the actual people that I know that are LGBTQ. Like, the agenda is way more aggressive than the actual people are pushing it. It's like, who's benefiting from this? But that's what they do. So what was I going to say? I was going to connect Israel and Palestine. I was saying how they sit back and it's like they just stoke the fire. There was a couple other instances that I say, but it's like the little kids at school. It's like at lunchtime when it's like people want to see other people fight. So it's like, yo, that person says, or you hit me and then I'll hit them. And then they like, come on, bro. Like, they are just trying, like, I don't know. Maybe I don't see it. Maybe I'm not seeing it correctly. Maybe I'm reading into it too much, whatever. But take a look at this. Take a look at this. Is this it? Hold on. I want y'all to take a look at this and let me know what y'all think. Now, when I said earlier that, 10 years ago, we would look at this world and be like, yo, this stuff is crazy. I would never expect that to be happening. But this is another example of things being forced down our throat, no pun intended, whatever. It just is what it is. Pause, all that, yeah. Because Ant's here. Look at Michael Strahan's face. And I probably just caught him at the wrong time, but look at Michael Strahan's face and then look at what we're getting ready to play. And I want to ask y'all, as y'all are watching this video, do you think Michael Strahan's cool with this? Do you think this aligns with his morals? I don't know. I don't know. I'm just asking. Maybe it does. But do you think it does? Or do you think he's now forced to sit back on this ABC platform? And if he wants to make the amount of money that he's making, then he's got to be acceptable of this at the very least, and maybe even push it and promote it as well. So let's take a look.
How you doing?
Thanks for being here. I love that you love root beer, caffeine free. I can get on board with that.
My mom doesn't like me.
Now, we're going to be respectful because this is a child, and I don't blame the child. I really don't. But I'll tell you what was hard for me to see is that crowd of people. That crowd of people when, I forget his name, Desmond, or I forget what they said his name is, when he's walking out. Look at this crowd of people, how they're cheering. Look at them celebrating this stuff. Now, 10, 15 years ago, I've heard, certain people saying like, hey, this would have been identified as a mental health, like, hey, we got to, look into this. Now it's just in a different place. I'm not saying that look, typically, like anything else, there needs to be some type of balance, right? It may not be as extreme as this side wants it to be, but clearly not as extreme as that side wants it to be, right? It needs to be some type of balance. I don't know the best way to deal with a situation like this, but what I am seeing, just my own observations, I could be totally wrong, is that now that this is becoming more acceptable and pushed within the communities, I see a lot of parents that are damn near promoting this type of behavior, that think it's cute for their little boy to be dressed up like a little girl, that think that it's cute. And, oh, I wanted to have a daughter anyway. So now you're putting that on your kid and now convincing yourself that your kid now who can't barely function, brain ain't even developed, is now deciding that, oh, I was born in the wrong body. Now I want to do drag. To each their own. I've never been in this position. Like I said, there should be some type of balance, but when things are just promoted like this, it just makes me say, is that the right thing for this young man, this young kid? Like, is that, I don't know. I don't know. What are y'all thoughts? But then fast forwarding, I haven't heard the conversation. So I haven't heard this. So I'm getting ready to listen to this for the first time with y'all.
Thanks for being here. I love that you love root beer, caffeine free. I can get on board with that.
My mom doesn't like me drinking caffeine.
Does it make you hyper? Yeah, me too. They don't like when I drink caffeine either. But Desmond, you're one of the youngest and first drag queen/kids. And I've heard that you've gotten messages from young adults who look up to you for being who you are. What are some of the notes you've gotten?
Some of the notes I've gotten are like that you.
All right, so that's just it for that combo. And I just realized that it's a Matt Walsh video. Like I said, I hadn't seen it. I just wanted to review it with y'all first. But what do y'all think about that? Like, what are y'all thoughts on that? Like, of course, you never want to bash a kid, but it's just like, damn, it just seems like society is pushing this thing so much that it's ruining a lot of kids. Like, it's hurting a lot of kids. It's confusing a lot of kids. Remember, these are kids. So we're pushing these things through TV, through every single show. We're seeing it through the books in schools, through the drag queens reading at libraries, through just society. It's like, yo, this goes above and beyond. Like, why are we pushing this? Like, I'm just saying, like, so Ant wrote, I think you're looking at it wrong. It all becomes clear when you realize the only way for I'm gonna let you finish it. I may be looking at it wrong. But I'm just sitting back and I'm more just presenting it. I don't even want to give an opinion on it. I just want to know. I just want us to see that it's happening. And if it's something that we do see that is harming our kids or impacting our next generations in a negative way, then maybe everybody can address it on their own. But this is, damn. Okay, so it says, I think you're looking at it wrong. It all becomes clear when you realize the only way for entertainment to get industry backing in America is through government propaganda machine. So Ant's saying that the only way for the entertainment industry, I believe this is what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong. The only way for the entertainment industry to get industry backing is through government propaganda. So we know a lot of the governments, the Pentagon, like different people, different branches of the government work directly with Hollywood. I believe that's what you're highlighting. Uncompetitive wrote, Big Pharma makes more money off selling carcinogenic, I'm saying it wrong, carcinogenic cross-sex hormones than treating the actual problem with cheaper mood stabilizer medicines. Whenever you bring Big Pharma, so ants are the same thing. Okay. Whenever you bring Big Pharma uncompetitive, I'm with you. I think Big Pharma are that's like the worst industry, the most corrupt industry, maybe period. Like Big Pharma, because they impact us in so many different ways, both from a mental aspect as well as physical. Like they are destroying us between the food that we consume and between the drugs that we need to consume based on the food being so terrible and causing all these diseases. The drugs are just as bad and they do not heal us. They just keep us reliant upon the drugs. So therefore, Big Pharma can what? Profit as much as possible. Maybe, and do I need to say allegedly? Allegedly? Okay, allegedly, that's the case. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't have a way to prove that. I feel like I do. I feel like that's proven, but neither here nor there. Neither here nor there. But like I said, I'm just gonna. Sometimes we need to see certain things to be aware of it, and because I'll tell you about a conversation that I had with. I'll give you an example. I had a conversation with one of the doctors that I was telling you about. Remember, I said I was on the phone with literally for 5 hours with a doctor talking about politics, and most of the conversation was about abortion. So this is a female surgeon, probably early 40s. And we were talking about abortion, and she kept saying something that I just didn't understand. And she was like, it's not terminating the baby, it's having an abortion. And I was like, wait, what? So keep in mind, it's a surgeon I'm talking to. So, and it just what Dish didn't know. And she kept saying this, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you're killing, like you're terminating the pregnancy, you're terminating the baby. Like the baby's no more. And she said, no, that's not the case. It's just an abortion. Like in late term abortions, that's not the baby's not lost. The baby's, and she kept saying, I'm like, yo, what is she talking about? She thought that in most of these late term abortions, like the one that we played on the phone call, or we played on the show, the phone call made to the care clinic in the 34th week, where the clinic is saying like, yeah, come on down. Like this is safer than a pregnancy. Yeah. When walking through the whole process over the phone, when the lady said that it's not a health issue. I just want to terminate my baby at 34. I just don't want, to be pregnant anymore. She didn't say terminate my baby, but whatever. So then the doctor that I'm talking to, she thought that those late-term abortions, they actually preserve the baby, that they actually deliver the baby and put it up for adoption or whatever else. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, yo, you didn't know that they're... So I'm just saying that to use it as an example, that we kind of sometimes assume that people may see things the way we see things, or have access to the same things that we're seeing, or be aware of the same things that we're aware of, but that's not necessarily the case. So that's why I'm showing it to y'all. That's why I'm showing it to y'all, because it's like eventually we're going to turn around, and just like we did, maybe just like we're doing now, when we're turning around looking like, yo, how did we get here? Like, what? This is crazy. Like they're allowing this type of stuff. And it's because we've always just allowed things to just go without addressing it. And just like most things that we do in our life, we don't address it until it becomes a huge problem. That's just how it goes. So let's look at two more videos, just two more videos. And then, yeah. Two more videos. I knew I wasn't gonna be able to get to everything. But let's look at this Instagram video. So a lot of people, there was a big convo around, hold on, let me make sure I catch up with Ant's comment. Look past intended focus of whatever you're watching and look for the underlying sales pitch and everything. You will see the same messages everywhere, as though people are being hypnotized in subliminal messages. And see, I get it. I'm 100% with you, Ant. I'm 100% with you. I want y'all to take a look at this. Take a look at this. So a lot of people were talking about Janet Jackson. And since we played the clip of, I'm not sure if everybody was on the show Friday. I believe on Friday we went over how Candace Owens is now investigating Kamala Harris's lineage. And she's calling out some stuff that Kamala may have lied about in her book and maybe exaggerating her blackness. I know being black is so in right now for Kamala, but apparently she may be misleading us a bit. So Candace Owens is looking into that. And as a lot of us know, if you're hiding something, Candace Owens is not the person that you want looking into it. She's not. If you're hiding something, Candace Owens is not the person that you want looking into it. So what happened was Janet Jackson made a statement and said that, oh, I heard Kamala's dad was Irish. I didn't know she was black. I heard his dad was Irish. And a lot of black people came for Janet Jackson, and a lot of the Democratic pundits and everybody else came for Janet Jackson. And Candace didn't like that. So Candace started to look into it. So this next video that I'm getting ready to show y'all may be the reason behind all of this. Why Janet Jackson? A lot of people said, why would Janet Jackson come out and say that? Well, there's a little bit more into it. And this video is actually relative because it involves Trump as well. So shout out to Maya for sending this one over. Let's take a look at this. Y'all tell me y'all thoughts.
Life. That could mean life in prison. And cases like this can depend on the testimony of the child accuser.
In general, the child will be able to recall and recollect with some detail the incident, and that is persuasive to a jury, even if it is the only testimony that is available.
Jackson gave a wave when he was released after booking. He's scheduled for arraignment in January.
Michael's been a long-time resident of Trump Tower, and last night the Donald strongly reiterated his defense of Jackson with Larry King by going after the accuser's mother.
She's had plenty of experience at going after people, and she goes after them viciously and violently, and I saw a story and I read another story about some of the things she's done, and I don't believe it.
But you know what it's like when an indictment comes down.
It's tough.
It's presumption.
It's tough. It's tough to win, but I have a feeling he's going to win, Larry. The interesting thing is I've known Michael from many different standpoints, and Michael would spend a lot of time with my kids. I have beautiful kids, and at the time, like at Mar-a-Lago, and even in Trump Tower, the kids were very young. Michael would come, play with the kids. He just loved children. He was not a child molester, and I am certain of that. He loved children. He'd play with my son Eric and my son Donald, and he'd just play with them forever. He loved children, but he was not a child molester. And, that whole final saga.
That could mean life in prison. And cases like this can depend.
Kind of wild, right? That's kind of wild, right? I did not know that. So now it kind of makes sense. But the added element was Trump standing so firm in his support for Michael Jackson. So what I was thinking, I'm sitting here like, damn, they go back and talk about what Trump did for the Central Park 5, but they never talk. And they say he hates black people. They blatantly lie and try to switch up his words for what he did with Charlottesville, or when he said with Charlottesville with the very fine people on both sides, and said that he never condemned the white supremacy groups when he actually did do it. But the liberal news stations just decided to cut it off right before. In that same sentence, or the next sentence, he said there were very fine people on both sides talking about the statue, and he said, I'm not speaking about the white supremacy groups. I totally condemn them. Made that very clear. But what did they keep doing? They kept spewing this propaganda to get us to hate Trump. They don't bring up the fact that Trump was the one that gave a lot of the money to support Jesse Jackson in his campaign running for president years ago. What is that, 30, 40 years ago? And they don't bring up this. Michael Jackson, that's one of our greatest, right? In the black community, right? We still claim him. We know he, bleached his skin a little bit, but we still rock with Mike, right? And look at how Trump was standing firm on his support for Michael. Does that not stand for anything? I don't know. But I'm just sitting here wondering why we're not seeing the big picture, because I've said it plenty of times before that out of nowhere, when Trump decided to run for president, all of a sudden black people don't like him. But before that, it seemed like black people love Donald Trump. When you hear Mike Tyson talking about him, when you hear all these celebrities, they say he's not racist. Like, what do you mean? I've been rocking with Trump for a very long time. The very people who call him racist were rocking with him. Oprah was rocking with him. She was a great friend of his. But that's just what happens. It just is what happens when you land on the other side of a particular fight or agenda or political campaign. So, I don't know. Oh, Uncompetitive wrote that Jackson had vitiligo, so he lightened his skin so it wouldn't look all blotchy. Is that for real? Hold up. See, this is just another example. When we don't get all the information, we see things through a particular lens. I grew up just thinking Mike just wanted to be white. He changed his nose to a more traditional white nose. He did all this stuff now. But if you're telling me something like that he wanted to prevent blotchy skin, then all right. But one more video that I want to show y'all. One more video. Let me just see which platform it's on. All right, so it's on X. If I can find it, I kind of wanted to wait to show this one, but I'm gonna show it. Let me find it first. All right, here it goes. Y'all tell me what y'all thoughts are. And then we're gonna finish it up here. Now let's back up. Let's get the title. So it says, this allegedly happened a couple days ago in Mississippi, where a white child was beaten to a pulp by a bus full of black students. If things were the other way around, there would be a national outrage and the media would be reporting it nonstop. Let's take a look. That's just what the person's saying. I don't know if that's true. I haven't seen the full video. I only saw like 5 seconds of it, but I doubt that everybody on the bus was involved in this. But let's take a look at it. And it seems like there's some other white kids on the bus as well. So it's not just black kids.
Holy shit!
So I'm trying to see right now if other kids were hitting them.
Holy shit!
All right, so seems like other kids are involved, at the very least not stopping it. And the very point of this video, the only reason to show it is exactly what the lady said in the caption. We get triggered by race issues. And if this was a different situation, the same thing that I said when it comes to Jill Stein, when Jill Stein was sitting there getting harassed, in my opinion, by Angela Rye, Charlemagne, and the other people that were on the Breakfast Club, I said if it was reversed and Jill Stein was a black woman sitting around a group of white people getting that type of treatment, it would be a problem. This is a similar video. And like I said, I hadn't seen the full video. But what I'm saying is that we have to be very careful in only caring about certain situations that happen to us, to the point where we disregard the things that happen to other people, maybe from our group. And this is something that I've seen happen in a lot of areas. I think that this is the case when it comes to a lot of Caitlin Clark's treatment. In the WNBA, where people just hate on her. It's like almost to the point where you convince people, and this is the whole DEI and all that other stuff, in my opinion, it just leads to this. You convince a group of people that because they've been mistreated for so long, that it's okay for them to mistreat other people. That's what I see happening. And that's what I see that will happen to all of us if we're not super intentional about being objective and not being caught up in the propaganda, which is the easiest way for us to emotionally engage in something. Well, I should say the easiest way is to use propaganda that has to do with race. We're all going to it's an emotional thing. We know that we're going to we're going to have some feelings that come to light from it. It just is what it is. And hold on. Did y'all look at the bottom left of the screen? I didn't even realize that this was in the screen. Hold on. Y'all didn't know. I was sitting there thinking like, what is that behind me? And even as I'm looking at it, neither here nor there. But an uncompetitive wrote, white kid was restrained from being able to defend himself. Agreed. And we don't know if the white kid said something bad to provoke this. We don't know about the situation. But what's so funny is uncompetitive is it wouldn't matter. If it was a black kid getting beat up like that by a white kid and the other kids weren't restraining him, it would be an issue. And it's the same thing that we saw what happened when the people jumped off the boat and stuff. We get so caught up in this race stuff, and it comes out in different situations. It came out in Drake versus Kendrick. It comes out in so many different ways where you start to realize like, oh, damn, people got a whole lot of racial tension built up in them. And it's from a lot of this propaganda that we see. So I don't know. That video wasn't, to me, it wasn't as exactly as it was presented to me when we actually looked at it. But if it was reversed, I do think that would be a bigger issue. But I think regardless of making it a bigger issue or not, I think that we all just need to be more aware of being a little bit more objective and understanding that things, when they impact us, we're going to be a lot more sensitive to perhaps how we're impacting others. So just wanted to put that out there as we wrap up. It's 9:47. Oh my God. All right. Sorry about that. I told myself 9:15, 9:30 today. All right, let's do this. Let's get our 45 seconds of meditation, visualization, manifesting. It's Monday. Y'all know what we do. Do me a favor. Get a quick like. Do me a favor. Everybody like the video. Get the likes up real quick. That's going to help with the algorithm. Y'all already know how I explain that. That's going to get more and more people involved in the conversations. That's going to allow people, that's going to force YouTube. We need YouTube to make sure that we're recommending these videos to everybody so that we can get more and more of these conversations happening. And of course, we're on other platforms as well. So we're on Twitch, we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and we're getting ready to be on Rumble as well. So definitely like, but as we set off on every Monday, this will be the greatest week that we've ever had. Put that in your mind, embrace it, let it sink in. Don't hope for it. Don't wish for it. Just expect it because you know it's going to happen. So with that, let's take 45 seconds. If you're in a safe place, close your eyes. Do some breathing. Every breath that we're inhaling positive energy, positive outlook, having a great week. Every breath out, we're exhaling all the BS and all the distractions that are preventing us from living in our purpose. All right. So 45 seconds. Let's go. One last deep breath. Breathe, get that diaphragm. Out through the mouth. All right. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. I'm going to let y'all get out here. Y'all know what we're here to do. Elevate on purpose, both from an intentional standpoint as well as raising our standards to make sure that we are becoming the people that we need to become to lead in our communities, our villages, our tribes, and just overall in our day-to-day interactions. All right. We are all influencing a lot of people. All right. So just embracing that, seeing more positivity. All right. Embracing the golden rule, treating others how we want to be treated. Strength and honor, onward and upward. Make sure that you get to that bag. All right. We get to that bag, whatever that bag is at the end of the tunnel that we're working towards or that we're aligned with as we embrace this purposeful abundance. You decide what's in your bag. What's in my bag? Peace, love, happiness, health, wealth, and in anything that we do and in everything that we do, integrity. So with that, love y'all. Appreciate y'all. And if nothing else comes up, I guess I'll see y'all on Wednesday. All right. Talk to y'all soon. Ew.